Welcome back, everyone, to the Robert Timmons Show. Our guest today is Bill Wooditch, who is a keynote speaker and a successful business leader. He built a multi-million-dollar company from the ground up, from the foundation of the philosophy he lives to this day. To receive value, you first have to give value. He is the host of the podcast, The Unstoppables, and the author of Always Forward and Fail More, a Wall Street Journal bestseller. The hard-won lessons he shares in his books and keynotes are designed to shorten the distance between where you are now and where you are determined to go in the future. Welcome to the show, Bill.
Robert, it's my pleasure. It's great to virtually meet you.
Absolutely. I am so thrilled to have you here today. I'm looking forward to learning more about your background, and these books look very impressive, and I'm looking to dive into those within our conversation and later, for sure. For our listeners, let's step back and find out, who was Bill before this multi-million-dollar industry, and how did you dig yourself out of that?
I grew up in a small town in Western Pennsylvania, and the town was known as the icebox of the United States, not just Pennsylvania, but the United States. Now, you're from Canada.
Yes.
Right? You know cold.
Oh, yes, I know cold.
So we share that bond. I wanted to get out of the cold. That was the first driving, impetus for me. Turning on the television, looking at California, seeing the Rose Bowl, looking at, the beautiful ocean. And I thought, wow, I'm looking at ice. All I see is snow and cold and freeze. and I got to tell you, as a disclaimer, what a long road. I was never a good student, never brought home a book. And people used to say, you got potential, but you got to use it. You're going to end up doing nothing. That's what I did, Robert. I ended up saying I didn't want to go to college, and I just want to, hang out and goof around with my friends. And I ended up working in a local factory. And I call it my factory of fear, because walking in every day, punching a time card, and then having an hour for lunch and having 10-minute breaks, and then going home and doing the same thing every day for 9 months scared the blank out of me, scared the ego, scared the arrogance right out of me. So that fear, and I think it's important for your listeners to have that type of a fear where, wait a minute, there's no way back. I've really burned my boat, either by accident or by design, and I have to go forward. Small town kid, grew up with a very authoritarian dad who was a state policeman, state trooper. My mother was a nurse. I was a rebel. That's a pretty good admixture for trouble at some point.
Wow. So where'd you go from there to, what was your first steps to go from there and move towards something that was moving you to where you are today?
I say this about opportunity, Robert. I think that there's windows of opportunity for us. We have to be able to see it. We have to be able to seize it, really go through it and grab what's on the other side so we make it ours. But I stepped into, when you mentioned I stepped into our front lawn. My brother was going to go to a college and play football. And my parents said, we'll give you one chance to go to school, but if you mess this up, like you've messed up everything else in your life, we're not giving you any more chances. This is it. I ran for the opportunity. I learned how to learn. I really applied myself for the very first time in my life. And slowly I made my way through school and made my way out into corporate America with $200 to my name, an oxidized station wagon, no hubcaps my mom gave me, brown corduroy suit, couldn't even tie a tie, and didn't know anything about selling or business. I just knew that I needed a job. So that's really how I stepped out of those woods. Fear, messing up, having someone believe, give me a chance. And boy, when you get that chance, woo, you know why you go forward? Because you remember what it felt like back there. And that was the key for me.
No, absolutely. I understand that totally. I messed up quite a bit when I was younger, but my mother's a factory worker. To this day, she's almost 72, and she's still in the factory. And that alone was a driving force for me to not go that direction. I did, like you, you were less in that world than I was, but I did, get a taste of it and knew that this was not for me. When songs came on the radio that were talking about other places, that's what I remember. And that pushed me. I think those were messages that were sent to me to say, it's time to move on. And if I wasn't quitting, the universe was getting me out of there somehow. And no, I definitely understand that fear of just being in something dark and being tied to it.
And you know, and that to us, the factory could be anything. It could be doing the same thing no matter how much money you're making, but you're doing the same thing every day. So a factory isn't necessarily a physical plant. And my mother's side, everyone worked in a factory pretty much. And they were the ones that gave us clothes and supported what we could do. So that was a great, you know, noble way of doing those things then. But to me, a factory could be you 9 to 5, man. You could be making six
Hmm.
figures, but still doing the same thing, and you're in the same damn factory.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. Now let's jump into your first book, Always Forward, where you learn to qualify opportunity from conversation, which I think is a great, I love that sound right there. Can you speak a bit about what you mean and briefly what these 7 secrets of sales success are?
This is my passion. I'm going to tie this together for you. Everything ties together this way. No matter who you listen to talking about, 10x, 20x, whether it's Grant Cardone, whomever is speaking to you, that's about activity. So the first thing is activity. If you are in sales or in life and you don't put yourself in position to win by getting in the game, having a lot of activity, no matter what it is you're doing, but having a lot of activity toward an intended result, you end up nowhere. So in sales, you have a salesperson who needs to meet quota. They haven't they haven't built their pipeline. They haven't made the calls. They've got rejection hurt too much. Don't want to do it anymore. Well, it comes time for the quota. It comes time for the quarter. All of a sudden, they're desperate. They're fearful and they're desperate. And people, they see it, Robert. They feel it. Fear, desperation, and greed. Now they got to make every sale. So everybody that will have a conversation with them is to them a qualified prospect. They're not, for the
Mhm.
most part. They're just having a conversation. They come back to the sales manager. How did your call go? Went well. Well, going well is a cash check. What happened? They had a conversation, not enough activity. Some fell off as they normally would. They did not have enough suspects to bring to prospects, to bring to clients. Activity rules success. Number one principle in business, number one principle that I explain in Always Forward.
Oh, wow. And I know when it comes to sales, it's a lot about mindset, right? Like you said, that person brought themselves to desperation. So their mindset changed. And now they're desperate to get anybody who comes on the phone with them and talks. And people do feel that on the other end. We're connected in some manner. So when you have a certain mindset, they feel it on that end. And they're definitely, either going to come into you, depending on how it is, or like you say, desperation, it's going to push them and repel them away.
Well, that's a good point. It's a really good point because let me explain something about, or just my version of mindset. And really, the question is not how bad do you want something, but really how much can you endure to get that thing? Can you work the process? Can you stay with the process? And are you in the right place? Because see, for me, Robert, to try to do what you do, to try to have that artistic flair of painting, that's just not in my skill set. So I could try forever. I could do paint by numbers forever. It still wouldn't look as good as you doing something freehand. Not my skill set. You got to know where your skill set is. You got to be able to do the work. You got to endure it. You got to love the suck. You got to get involved in the repetitions. And that's what yields success. It's no 4-hour thing. It's mindset. How much am I going to take to be able to get? And that's the key right there.
Wow. No, I definitely feel that. And your current book is now Fail More, and it's a Wall Street bestseller. And the title itself is counterintuitive to how high portion of the world thinks. Can you tell us a bit more about what you mean there with Fail More and where the listeners can get both of these amazing books that you have put out?
Well, the first thing you want to do is really to gain attention when you're marketing. So if you walk by I always thought about walking through the airport, and eventually I saw my book there. And I'm thinking about all these books on success. You can do this, you can do anything, you can make everything fly, and it's the parachutes and all the great things. And then you have a book that's really the middle finger that says fail more, and people will at least stop and look at that because it's so counterintuitive to what they, like you said, to what they expect. But if you don't fail, and if you don't learn how to fail, you're never going to touch, sniff success. You won't. It is the inverse, the opposite side of the coin that is success. They're the same coin, just different sides. Before you can succeed, you're going to fail. Now, think about what you're doing. When you raise the bar to the next level, at every level, there's a devil. Raising that bar to that next level, you know what you're going to be met with? Failure. When you seek comfort, and we don't want to change, which is part of failure, and we want to feel like we're secure in our little bubble of what we think we know, we're never going to grow. You're never going to grow. You've got to seek failure, but it's not only a book about inspiration and moving through it, it's how to. Okay, this hits, where's it coming from? You have a fear here, you failed here. What do? Do you journal? Do you go back and think, if I did this, do I do this now? So it's really a book about how-tos as much as just get off your butt and go do it.
And I think people need a lot of that, because failure is kind of like the way I grew up was ingrained to not do it. Like school
Yeah.
systems don't want you to fail. You become a failure, you're actually like looked down upon. And, I've been in jobs where you can't make mistakes.
Right.
You make mistakes, you're punished.
Yeah.
And
good. You know what, you're bringing up a point, and I'm pretty animated about this point because it's in one of my books. I think it's in Fillmore, where one of the top salespeople that I've mentored came to me on the very first day, and he was what you just said. He was stung by not being able to make a mistake. So he sat down, he was kind of sweaty, and we were in front of this prospect. The guy was ready to come in the door, and he said, "What mistakes are we going to make today?" And I said, "Why do you ask me that?" He said, "Well, that's what my former boss, hate that term, my boss, used to say, you can't make these mistakes." And I said, "Well, man, we're going to make them all, but it won't matter." And he sat back and he said, "Wow." I said, "It won't matter." And to this day, he tells new reps that come through, "Here's what Bill Wooditch said, and here's how it proved out." You got to be able to be yourself. You got to be able to take your ego out of the equation in that part of it. Your ego is very important in where you're going to go, but you can't let it get so fragile that you're afraid of that rejection. You're afraid of blanking up, because if you don't do that, man, you're going to get pushed aside. There is no such thing as perfect in life, Robert. There's only good. And it's often the enemy of good is perfect.
yeah, I noticed like when I was being put through those kind of actions that I second guessed myself too much.
Mm.
Because I didn't want to make the mistake, because I didn't want to go in front of the boss, and I didn't want to be put down. And you know what I mean? It was just like it was such a doom and gloom kind of action. But no, I definitely hear you there. And I think that is something that definitely needs to be twisted in society, is to fail more. There's some people that I remember listening to, and they said every day at dinner, I think it was Sarah Blakely of Spanx. And she said, Father used to say, "What did you fail at today?" Because he wanted them to go out and push to the limits and fail. And it was such a big twist. And now she's a $1 billion, owner of Spanx. Like, it's incredible to hear these stories like that.
I found that story inspirational. It's also in my book. Her journey, her process, what she went through, her self-belief, and then that family value, the family center that teaches you it's okay. Actually, you need to aspire to failure. So, I think that's all part of, we're taught to go for the participation trophy, to show up, get the perfect grade. And really, it's the antithesis of what we need to survive and thrive in business, which is more willpower, pushing through problems that might not be soluble, that we need to just keep trying to find a way and not look for the perfect grade. Because, man, in business, there's no such thing as a perfect approach. When your plan hits the boardroom, and hits that other CEO, or hits that other, the president of the company, everything changes, man. And you get hit in the face, everything changes.
That's awesome. Now, to have such an impressive person on the show, I need to ask for our listeners to how to focus on customers, and what to say when you go to a maybe to a yes in regards to sales.
It's a great question. And I will tell you the most important thing I learned after failing 13 times in a row. I just got nailed 13 times in a row because I was trying to do things from other people's voices, other people's scripts, other people's ways, approaches, and I didn't find my own way. First thing you need to do is to find your voice. Do it your way. Be a real person. That's important. Don't look at the other person's wallet. Don't think how much money they're going to make you, or the company, or what it's going to look like on a leaderboard. What you want to do is look at the heart and be honest with that person as a person. You know what, Robert? I can't do this, and I'm not very good at this. And then the person starts to listen, not just hear. But what is it that you do, Bill? Now you're treating them as a person because you're showing shortcomings, what you can or can't do that they're going to find out anyway. And you're meeting them as a person. Show your limitations. They'll figure out your strengths. That was number one for me. Always be confident. You know what? You've got to be competent. You have to be able to do those things you say you do. But if they don't believe you, if you don't come across with that confident air, they're never going to stick around. It's always going to be maybe. Most important thing is this. Everyone comes from fear first. So they don't want to hear you. They're afraid are you a foe? Are you going to be an ally? Don't know, but you're selling against their fears. See, people have their 401k in play if you're trying to get them to come with your company. I don't know, if I make a bad choice, I might get fired. I might get, they might ridicule me. So safe sometimes is the choice. To move them, you've got to lower their degree of fear and increase the degree of certainty they have that you're going to do what you say. Comes with one thing: more contact, more familiarity, more honesty. That's key.
Now, I know in sales, what I've learned quite a bit, you're separating where they are to where they want to go, right? And you want to slide into the gap and be the bridge. What's your kind of strategy in that area? How, like, are you asking, what type of questions you may be asking to kind of do that separation? I know sales is it's almost like you teach someone how to fish, they can feed their family for life. So sales, you learn how to do sales, you can almost do anything and always have money coming into your house, right? So it's kind of why I really want to pick your brain on the sales part, because you definitely have done something with it.
You've got to be able to do what you do really well, because I'm looking at it behind you. You got to be able to paint the vision of the future. And that comes through words that are feeling words. Here's what I mean. Somebody's frustrated, but you spent enough time with this prospect. They say, you know what, we just can't get this product. Other people have not been able to deliver this product on time. This is what it's like. I would say, what is it going to feel like? I want you to just tell me what it's going to feel like when we're doing this 3 days before the deadline. When we're doing this without you asking, you can see it. Oh, and they'll say, yeah, that would be great. You want them to feel that, because sales is emotion. It is emotion first and thought second. So my way, my style would be to capture those words that paint the vision. I want to paint a vision of the future. I don't want to just say, in the future, we're going to deliver these things right on time. It doesn't mean anything. But saying what's it going to feel like when we do, you're doing two things. You're painting that vision and you're establishing it as a fact. Those are very powerful tools.
Now, the other thing when it comes to sales is if you feel you can help this person and you don't, it's a disservice to that person. How true is that to you?
Very true. I'll tell you something. Let's go back to ego for a minute. I was the number one salesperson at every company I ever worked for, and they were big. One was a Fortune 500 company. And I did it without knowing much about sales. And I learned it I flipped the switch of sales to be enrollment. And I knew I had to work my butt off, and I was willing to do that. And then I just got better at what I did, because I kept doing it. But I was never perfect. So what I mean was, there are some times when I would sit down across the desk and know that guy or that woman is never going to buy from me. They just don't like the way I look. They don't like what I'm saying. There's just something about it. They don't like it. All right. Get somebody else in there from the company that can do that. Because if they're not going to buy from you, get somebody in there that, hey. And some people, I said, you don't need me. You don't need us, because you're in a good place. So I'm not going to try to break something that is working for them just because I want to make a commission on that account. Don't do that. That's how you build a reputation. And that's how you build a level of trust. Trust is earned, not granted. It ain't broke. I ain't the one to try to break it up and then try to fix it, because that's just not the quality of person that I am.
Oh, excellent answer. I appreciate that. So do you have 3 tips, that our listener can take action on today that would help improve their life and move forward?
You can't export ideas, and I mean your ideas that you synthesize in your head, unless you read. It's a lost art. What you read, how you think, spend some time alone, off the line, away from the distractions of social media, to actually spend time on growing that mindset, that knowledge base, because I will tell you how that's important. I connect and you connect with people at a very thin line, a lot of people, but not real deep on certain things outside of the art you do or what you do for a living. I can't talk to people about engineering, but I can go just deep enough so there's a conversation flow. So learn, spend time reading. Number two, when you have a thought, think it through, but then act. The shorter that distance between your thought, really thinking this thing, and then taking a decisive action, the greater the chance of success. Here's the answer. Here's the reason. Not many people are willing to do that. They're trying to be what? Perfect. And they're waiting, polishing their idea. Somebody else is already doing it. Sarah Blankey's doing what she does. Mark Cuban's doing what he does. Mark Cuban said another thing that's good. It's in my book as well. Just get a job. Don't have to be perfect. Get a job. Get another job, because what you're doing is growing your skill set. That's number three. Always, always sharpen your skill set. Get better at what you're doing. And the big thing that's got to surround it all, Robert, it's got to surround it all, is learn to be confident. You deserve as much as anyone else in this world. Act like it and take it.
Wow, I love that. And I do agree. You know, I was a personal trainer at one time, and that was one of the things that we learned was know a bit about everything so you can have a conversation with each person that you see. I'm not a sports person. My brother was like so inundated with sports, but I know enough that, you know, from most of the time I talk about it's from the 90s. So people, you know, can see my age when I talk about Fedorov and, you know, and the
Yeah.
Detroit Red Wings and stuff. But it just, at least I know a little bit enough to understand the game and be able to have a conversation. But it's so much truth, you know, rapport is so easily gained that way when you can relate to certain things they like.
Okay. You're in it to win it like Iserman, right?
Yeah.
See, you mentioned Red Wings, right?
Hmm.
That's a little bit of that connection, and we started goofing around. And you know, it's funny because let's talk hockey just for a second, real quick, just to digress. But I was in San Diego, big account, very cynical, didn't believe anybody. They all did the same thing. You guys all say the same stuff. Why are you guys any different? I said, well, do you like sports? If they don't like sports, you know, I'm kind of like, oh, okay. You like sports? Yeah, I do. You're from Chicago. You like hockey, right? Oh, I love hockey. I said, well, the difference between what we do in our firm and what other people do that I've experienced is we're playoff hockey. And he started smiling. I said, we're going to lose teeth. We're going to get up against the boards. We're going to do the nitty gritty stuff. And we're going to just, every shift, man, we're just going to dig. Okay. We got the account. Now, we didn't get it based on the hockey metaphor, but he understood the work ethic. And so if you can relate to someone on that level, you're painting that vision again. You're painting a picture of something.
Oh,
Don't give me,
absolutely.
we can keep going if you want to keep going on that stuff, because I love that. I mean, that is the essence of being human, is being able to connect.
Oh, great. You know, yeah, when I was younger, I went to the Boys and Girls Club in our area. And I grew up where Wayne Gretzky kind of grew up and learned how to play hockey. And they used to come over and play with us all the time. It was a great story. You know, you're out there with all his brothers and stuff and having a good time. But it's definitely, I definitely understand that part where you can relate
Well,
to a story and draw someone into it.
well, let me give you a Gretzky story that, again, another one of those connection things, but it's true for anyone, because a number of people come to me for mentorship, and they come from across the country, or they'll knock on my door and try to get a job. And the one thing that Gretzky was asked by a parent, he said, can you teach my kid, my son, to work like you? He said, no. See, we can't do, no matter how much we want to as mentors or coaches or leaders, we can't do another person's push-ups. We can't do another person's ice time. We can't get in there at 5 a.m. and do those things we need to do. Can't. So you might have all the skill in the world, but you can't teach work ethic.
No, absolutely. And I think we're kind of in that part with the internet and a lot of people. I think the video games have become a big player with the young kids and stuff. And when I was younger, it was more like, where are you? Get in the house. Now it's like, where are you? Get out of the house, right?
Yeah. My parents used to have a bell, and they hit that bell. So we come running down from the neighborhood, because we were never in the house. We were always outside, and we were doing physical things. We were playing football all year round, in the snow, in the mud, in the sleet. We were doing that stuff. And today, the hand strength of people today, there was a study, it's like 30% less than it was in our day, just because it's more of this with controllers than it is physically doing things.
Wow, I never even knew that study. That's pretty.
Yeah,
I definitely
yeah,
understand it for sure. You know,
yeah,
because we used to do like tree tag and stuff, jumping from
yeah.
branches to branches. Like you don't see a kid would even want to think about something like that today.
No, you know what? No, I don't know if I would have done that either. I don't know. We like Tarzan out there, man. I don't know. I jumped on one. I did that one time, and it broke, and I almost broke my back. And I thought, well, that's the end of that. But that one jump was fun.
Oh
So,
yeah, you know the excitement that we had. You know, so what social channels can we find you on?
well, you asked me earlier, and I'll let you know where you can find the book. You can find the book in Bailmore, in Barnes and Noble, or on Amazon. You know, that's you can find just about anything. You can find Always Forward as well on Amazon. You won't find it in Barnes and Noble, but you'll find it all over the place on Amazon. And it's both books have done well. I think it's not so much that it's the great writing; it's that I can relate to people, and I relate to them as humans, and I try to make it something that's of value, not something that just sale that's for selling. And the proceeds go to the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund from Always Forward. So all
Right.
of my money goes to them, which is a worthy cause, and I believe in that and those worthy causes. I am all over the place. If you punch in Bill Wooditch, Wooditch, you'll see me doing most of my work on LinkedIn, a lot on Instagram just for fun. Of course, you got to be on Facebook, but I don't really play with that channel too much. But you can find me anywhere where you punch in Bill Wooditch and learn a lot more about me.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of great interviews on
Thank you.
TV shows and stuff that you've been on.
Thank you.
Um, Very impressive stuff that you've done. Now you get into reading books. We'll make this kind of the last one here, but last year I decided that I was going to read about 30. They say the average CEO reads about 50 to 60 books a year. So last year I took that goal on and I read over 30 books. And I was pretty impressed. Audiobooks to, actually reading books. Learned a lot. And these are all personal development because, I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
key. I want to work on the inside. I want to work on myself so I
Mm-hmm.
can improve my outer. This year I don't know where I'm at, but I think I'm quite fast on. I'm doing like 2 to 3 books a month. Where are you in that for someone who's running a company? I know your time's limited. How do you play in there?
Not as well as you did. I'm going to tip my hat to you because that's no that's impressive. And I have to make time. And during this pandemic, I have found I made more time to sit and absorb and read. But I will really go to certain books like Marcus Aurelius Meditations because I like to just to clear my mind and just read little snippets of that. I'm reading a book on economics now. So I'm going to read deep, do divergent things. I'm also reading a book on character. So I got 3 books going at once that I'm picking from. And it lets me just go to a whole nother level when the synapses up here fire up. And I'll tell you the important part. There is a prefrontal plasticity in your brain that often expands when you take in new ideas and creates new neural pathways. You actually can become a little bit smarter, believe it or not. And I think that's very important as you speak to people about connection and what you've learned from certain things. So I'm not as good as you. I'm probably about half of where you are with that. And that's a matter of you just schooled me, and I'm taking another way and saying, okay, if you're doing 30, I need to at least be doing 15, not 12.
Well, it all depends on how you're reading. Are you reading multiple times? What are there's definitely some good things there. But you got to where you are because you did a lot of reading, I'm sure, because
Did a
that's
lot.
where we solve our problems.
Hey, let me tell you, that's all I did. And I had to
Mm.
learn how to read. When I went to university, I didn't know how to read. And they were asking me to read books, about 4 inches thick for the week and write a report about what I found on the function of government. And I'm thinking, whoa, I don't even know what these words mean. So I lived with a dictionary in those days, and I had to learn to read. And I just fell in love with it as a source of knowledge. I really don't read fiction. I read books that like biographies on Churchill. So you learn about the essence of character and leadership. You learn about adversity. You can learn about how did he treat other people? Maybe not the nicest guy all the time, but at the end of the day, the result was what mattered. And I love one of his quotes that success is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm.
Yes.
It's just a little bounces, that you can grab from things. But at the end of the day, when you read, make sure you put it through this grinder of your head, of your brain, that it's really got to be, you believe that because it's something that aligns with you. Or if you don't, good point. Could be, maybe. So don't just buy face value, drink the Kool-Aid of everything you read. You got to be careful of that too.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Bill, for being such a powerful mindset on our show today. You brought so much value. I want everybody to really pick up his books. We got Always Forward and we got Fail More. And what I always like to tell my listeners is to take some of that and test it. Test it in your life, implement it, see if it works for you. If it doesn't, I'm sure there will be some, because believe me, every book that I got, I've implemented things, and now I've created morning routines. I've done a lot of great things. So I want to thank you again, Bill. And everybody, every Thursday, we have people on our show like Bill putting out amazing value, and I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you very much, Bill, for coming.
Hey, you were a great host and you asked great questions. Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking around. If you'd like to see more podcast interviews, you can check them out right here. They're exactly what you need to hear next. And if you're new here, hit subscribe and become part of the community, and tell me what you think about the podcast interviews in the comments below. I read all of them every week. And join my Mind Power Mastery group by hitting the link in the description.